Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, morning, Dad.
Tom, he used to call me His Excellency. Don't call me Dad. Call me His Excellency. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, bless this gathering of our members. We ask that the four-way test be the bond that keeps us together. Help us to realize how much we mean to each other and how much our efforts can be to make our world a better place. May others feel welcome to our meetings, and may our good works inspire them to join us in our mission of service to others. Bless this food to our liking and us to your service. In your name we ask it. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Doug McDowell.
The pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Doug. And lead us in song, Tom Tobin.
Father, son, do it. All right. Yeah. So, in honor of our dear departed friend Dick Pearsall, I thought we'd bring this one out today, When You're Smiling. So, once again, not much on the arm movements here. So, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain. So stop that sighing, be happy again. When you're smiling, keep on smiling. The whole world smiles with you.
Pavarotti better watch out. Now our president, Evan McCauley.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Evan.
We have an exciting presentation this morning. I'm looking forward to getting into that here soon. Just a couple of quick club updates that we'll zip through this morning, starting with Tom Page.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, Tom. First thing I want to do is recognize a person who's going in retirement, but he's still going to be coming here. That's Den Rich. Den? Den. He's been my partner in crime for the last 3, 4, 5 years, helping set it up, but he's going off to be a coach, and he'll help out. So, but he's not going to be here every morning on Wednesday to help set up. So we need help there. Den?
Let's thank Den.
So I have opportunities sitting here. And Ronnie Barnhouse, are you here? Okay. He's our leader on tear down and putting the stuff away. And then I'll be the one for helping set it up. Tommy Tobin's already agreed to be, I've got his name written in here too, to help set up. James Field. James, where are you, buddy? For about 8 months out of the year, we'll have somebody from Service Learning help run the camera, but then for those other 4 months, it can't be James all the time. So James needs some help too, and he knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows how to get all this stuff queued in, so he'll be our leader there. So if you have an interest, I made up one of these fancy forms. I think it's Jimmy Sutphin has come back. Jimmy Sutphin style. Yeah. And I'm going to pass this around, and then I'll get a hold of you if you have any questions afterwards. But this is an opportunity. We're going to keep on filming. We just need some help. And we do take vacations from time to time, so if we get about 4 in each area, we'll be in really good shape. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Den. Great job. Really appreciate your passion and getting here early every morning to set up. That's awesome. Backtracking just a little bit, we have a couple of guests with us this morning. George Murray is Stu's son. Welcome, George. Thanks for being with us. And our service learning guest this month, Ayano, is taking care of the camera. Thank you, Ayano. All right, one announcement. We have a Rotary Youth Exchange, Leah LaFond, and she is settling in very well. And Marilyn is going to share a quick update about her experience.
It's true. She's settling in extremely well with her family. And in fact, the good news is that we have lined up all 3 families that we had asked to have to support her during the course of the year. Leah's been also active with the other Rotary in-bands. She's gone canoeing. She went to the orientation. And I think she might have even gone to the ball game. But she's a sweet young girl, and she has a lot of different interests. She's been to the Cleveland Art Museum, parts of it, and absolutely enjoyed the experience. She's also likes classical music. So if you think of her occasionally, bring her along. She's a lot of fun, and she'll chat your leg off.
Thank you, Marilyn. And one other item, her birthday is coming up on November 9th, and this is our opportunity to show, our compassion and our impact and make a difference in Leah's life. And we're her sponsor club, so let's show her a great birthday. What we're going to do is Marilyn's going to send me over a list of some of her interests, and then we'll put together a gift basket. So, as small an item as you like, as large an item as you like, but we'll welcome her and wish her a happy birthday. That's great. Thank you, Marilyn. Following this meeting at 9:30 a.m., Jim Ahern, Allison Feaster, and myself are going to be heading over to Western Reserve Academy, and we're going to be kicking off their Interact Club meeting, introducing our club and getting to know them. Anyone here is welcome. If you have some free time and you're available at 9:30 this morning, come on over to Western Reserve Academy, connect with me before the end of the meeting today, and come join us. That'll be really exciting as we kick that off. Tomorrow, I'm going to be heading over to Erie, Pennsylvania. Rotary is made up of districts, and Rotary is made up of zones. So there are 32,000 clubs, 529 districts, and 34 zones. 2 zones are going to be getting together, and I was invited by our district governor. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of leadership training in Erie, Pennsylvania. And coming back next meeting, we're going to have a club assembly, and I title that Our Club, Our Future. So we're going to be talking about a number of things that are exciting, changes in Rotary, and things that we're doing to change with it. the Browns fundraiser. You see it on my Rotary reminder every week, and I'm going to leave it there. This will be the last time that I communicate it. If you're interested, register, contact me. It's an event that's available. Also, with that, if the Browns fundraiser isn't something that you're interested in participating in, are there any other group volunteer projects that you know of, whether it be the food bank or a United Way event, something that we can get our club together with our service learning and our Interact clubs? So I'm looking for ideas like that, so please share them with me. Next week also we'll have Fine Day, so bring your wallets and your purses and we'll raise some money for a good cause. Other than that, you see before you a new Rotary website. We're working diligently on making some updates, streamlining our website, and bringing it up to 2018 with all the capabilities that Club Runner offers. So more to come on that. We'll also have a little bit of a walkthrough at next week's meeting as well. Are there any other announcements for the good of the club this morning? Without further ado, I'd like to call Mayor David Basil forward to get us started this morning.
Thank you, President Evan. Good morning, fellow Rotarians. Good morning, Mayor. Unfortunately, the weatherman was off by 5.5 hours. The rain we were supposed to get at 2 a.m., we got at 7:30. So if you brought an umbrella, I think you should be okay. We're wrapping up the September speaker series focused on preparation and planning with a personal discussion of safety, security, and preparedness at home and when we are out in the community. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you our Fire Chief and EMS Chief, Jerry Varnes, and our new Police Chief, Perry Tabak. Chief Varnes is a lifelong Hudson citizen. He's married to Debbie, and they've been married for 32 years, have 3 children, Dan, Jesse, and Jake. Chief Varnes has served as a member and leader of Hudson Fire Department since 1978 and Hudson EMS since 1980. He was named Chief of the Fire Department in 2013 and assumed leadership of Hudson EMS in 2015. Chief Perry Tabak is a certified law enforcement executive with 25 years of law enforcement experience, including commander, SWAT commander, detective bureau supervisor, and K-9 trainer. Chief Tabak also serves on the adjunct faculty at Kent State, and prior to assuming the leadership of the Hudson Police Department on September 7th, 2008, Chief Tabak served in Cuyahoga Falls. It's my pleasure, and please give a warm Rotary welcome to Chief Jerry Varnes and Chief Perry Tabak.
Morning, all. On behalf of Chief Tabak and myself, thank you very much for the invitation today. When the mayor contacted me and asked if I'd be happy to present here, it's always a pleasure. Anybody that knows me knows it may be hard to pull me off the podium here. I love to talk about safety and fire department and all that stuff, and I know that the new police chief will give you some excellent information as well about situational awareness. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My goal here is to talk for about 15 minutes. And then pass it over to Perry. So we'll get started right away. Broke down some of the safety items or features, equipment, whatever you want to call it, that everybody usually knows about. Most everybody has them in their home, but I wanted to offer up some information that most people either have forgotten, aren't aware of, or for some reason choose to forget, and it creates problems with these pieces of equipment. So smoke detectors, it's pretty basic knowledge that you're supposed to have one on every floor because you never know where the fire is going to be. But technology has moved to the point where they're so sensitive and they're so capable of warning you earlier that they're now recommending that you have one in every bedroom. That way you have early warning and have a chance to get out before the fire gets too big and blocks your way. Probably the biggest surprise is I would bet that 75% of the people in this room have smoke detectors that are 20 years old in their house or very extended life things, and they only last about 10 years. And after that, they become either unable to sense smoke, or they become too sensitive and they start giving a false alarm. So 10 years is the life expectancy. Most people have the older style that you put a 9-volt battery in there every 6 or 8 months, and then they'll chirp at you and be annoying, and then you got to replace another battery. And that seems to always happen at my house at 3 a.m. instead of at a normal time, when that wakes the dog up and they go crazy and it gets ridiculous. The newer ones, the new technology's caught up, and they now have 10-year lithium-ion batteries. You buy the detector, you put the battery in it, you put the data that you got it, put it up there, it lives for 10 years. You don't have to do a thing for replacing a battery, and then in 10 years it starts beeping. It'll give you 2 or 3 quick chirps, and it's an end-of-life signal. So it's a reminder for you, time to throw me out, time to buy a new one. So that's the latest thing about them. There's a little bit of difference in some people's minds. Most of the older detectors are ionization detectors, and they've discovered they're a little bit slower in activating for a smoky fire. They're great for a flaming, burning fire, but they don't do very well for that smoldering fire. Most residential fires are that smoldering type, so the newer version is either a dual sensor unit that has both the ionization and the photoelectric, or if you're only getting one style, the photoelectric. Very minimal cost, you can get them anywhere. Carbon monoxide detectors, that's another thing that a lot of people think, it's not a big deal. I don't need to worry about how old it is or anything, but they actually have a maximum life of about 7 years. They are also caught up on technology where they will have an end-of-life beep signal as well. They become very problematic after that 7-year life, and they start sensing pet dander. They sense you get your carpet cleaned, that chemical will set them off. So that 5 to 7 years is a very legit life, and there's a newer version out there that you'll see in some of the discount stores. It's a combination smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector. The reason I don't like them is that you're always either throwing one out too soon because there's still life left in the smoke detector, or you're pushing the limit on the CO detector because it only lasts 5 to 7 years and the smoke detector can last 10. So not a big fan of those. A little bit more pricey than a regular smoke detector. Fire extinguishers, this is a typical size you see in your home. We recommend having 2 of them. If you're a mechanic, having one in the kitchen or centrally located in the house and the other one in the garage. If you're a hobby person or woodworker or whatever, have that second one in the basement. Wherever you're doing the most work that could create a fire, have that second one there. They're very inexpensive, but they also have a finite life. The powder in them will harden up, and then you go to use it one time in 30 years and it won't work because the powder's solidified. So you can make yours last a little bit longer by once a year turning it upside down, making sure that that powder, you'll be able to hear the powder move because there's a baking soda type of a powder inside. If you hear nothing and it's a solid rock, it's time to get it gone and buy a new extinguisher. You'll see a lot of specialized one, buy me for your kitchen or for your garage or your boat or your car. An ABC extinguisher is an ABC extinguisher. It'll put out just about any kind of home fire, unless you're into working with precious metals that are combustible or something unusual. Typically, everything in the home will work with a standard ABC, so you don't need that specialized one. The Life Alert device, a lot of people, especially around here, you'll see those. They come in a couple of different versions. You have a necklace. You can have the base station that just sits in your house. You can have a watch now, or it can be activated by your cell phone. It's the I've fallen, I can't get up kind of a thing. They're fantastic. You can purchase them. They can work a good distance off the base station, or they can be able to be used anywhere if you've got it on your cell phone. The nice thing is, if you fall and you can't can't get up and you push the button, activate it, it will automatically trigger the Life Alert people or whoever brand you buy, and they'll make a direct call to Hudson Dispatch and get EMS out there to help you. So it's a wonderful thing if you have any mobility challenges or health issues that would put you in a position where you might not be able to get to the phone, then or to the base station or whatever, then having one of those mobile units would be great. This bottom one, address numbers, is probably the bane of our existence on fire, EMS, and police, not being able to find you. If we can't find you, we can't help you. So please, get your addresses visible. The thing you painted on the rock 35 years ago that is now overgrown and covered with moss or a bush or whatever isn't going to help us. And as much as I'd like to know all of you personally, I don't know where you all live. So when I turn onto the street with 100 houses, it's going to be important for us to be able to find you. So make sure if your mailbox is in front of your house, make sure clear letters on the mailbox or on the post. If not, if you've got a fence, you've got a big rock, you've got something out close to the road that we can find you, having the little bitty letters on your house that's 100 feet off the street. I know my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and I probably won't see that on the house next to the front door. So making sure that you're visible for us, really important for us to be able to get there to see you. If you're a senior citizen, the Hudson EMS and a couple different organizations, EMS Outreach, have gone together, and we are offering free house numbers. We will even come out and install them for you if you'd like. So all you got to do is call up or stop by the EMS. We will get you your house numbers, and upon request, come out and install them for you. So very important to get that message out. Knox boxes. Most of you have seen these black boxes on the side of commercial buildings. I brought one. This is the type that hangs on your front door. It's got a little hanger, so it hangs there. It doesn't have to be screwed into the house in any way. This is a key safe, basically. It's a bulletproof key safe. I have keys to banks in town. I have keys, over 700 businesses in Hudson have this Knox box hanging near their business, and it gives us access to that business at 2 o'clock in the morning when the alarm goes off. I have two choices. We get there, we either break your $1,000 door down, or we open up this Knox box with our special key, we take the key out and we unlock it and we go in. So the choice is yours. This is a couple $100. They're very inexpensive. If you break one door, you're going to regret not having one of these. Every new business in town that comes in that isn't just like a name change, this is required by code. The city stepped up and now allowed us to make this a code requirement. But we still have an awful lot of long-time businesses that don't have them. So having Knox box is a wonderful thing. And one of the questions people usually talk about safety of that is, as I said, it's as bulletproof as can be, and it's built very sturdily, and you'll find it's a much higher quality than you'll see some of the lock boxes like real estate uses, hangs on the front door. A good screwdriver, you can pop those things open. So this is a very quality device, and the keys are locked in a device in my car or in the ambulances or in the fire trucks, and we can only access that, and our dispatch is notified when we access that. So those keys are specialized for the city of Hudson. So people ask, hey, what about if Solon has a Knox box? Can a Solon person come down here with their Knox box key and open up Hudson businesses? No, it's custom cut for just Hudson. So we're the only ones that can open up your business. Extension cords. It sounds so stupid and basic, but my goodness, the number of fires we have, especially around the holidays, when people are using that 40-year-old extension cord that always goes for the same Christmas tree location or the same candles in the window, and it's frayed and it's small. I call them lamp cords. They're the real tiny cords, not the outdoor extension cord things. And then people put one of these on it, and then they put more adapters, have 12 of them plugged in together. Those start more fires than you care to imagine. So we're a big fan of, if you're going to plug in multiple things, get one of the circuit strips. You all have seen them probably for your computer. They're inexpensive, a couple dollars, and they have a built-in circuit breaker and a built-in thermal device that if it starts to get hot, it will turn itself off. Both it protecting your devices, but most importantly, protecting you and your family. So that's a wonderful thing to use instead. And if you're outdoors, make sure you use the heavy duty. They're typically orange. Now we're seeing them that are green. Outdoor extension cord, heavy duty, waterproof, but people forget now you plug something in and the water can migrate into the connection. So use a little bit of electrical tape and tape up that connection, because if it sits in water and then it shorts out and your circuit breaker panel doesn't work, you could have a problem there. So, cold packs. This is something that not everybody has heard of. Something we offer for free. EMS Outreach supplies them for us, and you can pick them up at the EMS anytime. This goes on your refrigerator, inside your refrigerator. Thin, unobtrusive, it's just up against the wall, you won't even know it's there. But if you are incapacitated in your house and police and EMS arrive and we don't know who you are, what your medications are, what your medical condition is, who your family is, who your contact person is, all that information is on here. Wonderful device that allows us to get the information when we can't get it from you. So if you have one, please update it. A lot of times, call my daughter. She hasn't lived there for 12 years, and now she's got a cell phone instead of a home phone. So update the information. If you need a new one, stop down. If you don't have one, please stop and get one. It's a wonderful addition that makes you much safer, and it takes 5 minutes to fill out the form. So I think it's just probably it's at no cost, takes 5 minutes of your time, and can make the difference between us giving you a medication that you're allergic to or not knowing why you're unconscious there, and having your medical history it literally is a matter of life and death there, no exaggeration. So, important item. Fire safety inspections, I like to let people know that the fire department, we've got a great group of inspectors, and we'll offer to come out for free to your home, wander around with you, and let our trained eye look at it and go, oh, the box of fireworks that you have stored next to the furnace, let's maybe put them somewhere else, things like that. So we'll go around, we'll give you a list of items that we think would be more appropriate to move or change or do. None of it makes it mandatory. There's no fines. Boy, could we be wealthy if we could fine people for what they have in their homes. But we don't do that. We just give you a list and suggest maybe you make these changes that would make your house safer. And that is by appointment. So if you just call up and just give us a call, not sure why that didn't come through. Oh, there we go. We've got the drop down. I forgot about that. Some of the things that I think about, that I worry about, people say, what can happen in Hudson? We're a wonderfully safe little bitty town. Natural disasters. We've had tornadoes here. Anybody that's been here a long time, we've had tornadoes. Not much on the earthquake. We've had a couple small ones. Floods, we experienced that. We've had fatalities due to floods, unfortunately. Transportation disasters. My goodness, we have over 70 trains going through town every day, and the amount of back-end oil and liquid propane and anhydrous ammonia tanks and all the other things that keeps Jerry up at night going through here, let alone what's in the unmarked box truck semi driving through 91 and 303 that doesn't meet the requirement of being labeled, or does, and they just don't want to do that. So any kind of a hazmat situation, spills, as simple as the UPS truck can have hazardous materials in it as long as it's a small enough of a quantity. So those are those kind of things, and we can't do anything about it. We plan for it. We have wonderful people that can deal with those things, but it can happen at any time, anywhere in town. Not likely to have a plane crash, but we have had plane crashes in Hudson, small planes, never big planes, fortunately, knock on wood. This is probably my personal nightmare, having all my kids go through Hudson school system, and gone through there myself. A major fire of any kind in one of our schools. You all see that we're expanding our assisted living facilities in town. We've got 3 more that are coming through in the next couple of years, and so any kind of a major event at one of those places could be very, very problematic. So it's something that we train for, work diligently. Places like this, where we're at now, Laurel Lake, working together to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be. Historic downtown. Some of you may have been in a meeting the other day where I spoke about this. Others of you that haven't, you'll be hearing this news coming up soon. We're going to be stumping around town trying to drum up some support to try to get a fire alarm system in our historic downtown shopping district. When people ask me what is the single most at-risk location in Hudson for a significant event that will hurt the entire town, it's a fire in downtown. Anybody remembers back in 2014 it happened in Garrettsville? It's happened 4 times in the history in Hudson we've had a downtown fire. The most severe a little while ago. I wasn't there, 1892, but it can devastate an entire town. So any way we can do to improve it, and that's a proactive thing. Normally the fire service were reactive, but we try to be proactive, and so that'll be something we're looking to try to partner with maybe the city, some private entities, some donations from organizations, the property owners, the business owners. Maybe we can get all together and come up with a way to make that a safer area. And then finally, a major business. Imagine Allstate building burning to the ground, one of their big hubs that we have here in town, and how devastating that could be for our town, let alone the business. Major city, that's, you burn up the electric substation or the water plant, could really affect all of you if you don't have water or electricity. So one of those going down could be a major problem. So those are the things that keep me thinking, and we train every day, and we try to work together with all of these different entities to try to make sure everybody's prepared as possible. And one of the things that I'll leave, I don't know if it made it to your desks. Evan, did that happen? Okay. On your table, you'll see a list there. Emergency preparedness, just in general, whether it's a tornado, whether it's an earthquake, whether it's the plane crashing around the corner, or a hazmat incident that shuts down the town, that list will give you a nice, that's from a couple different organizations, FEMA and Homeland Security and the NFPA, they all worked together and came up with that list. So if you don't have one, we can get you one by the end of the day, or the end of the meeting here today. But the idea is to give you something you can take home and look at, what should I have in my basement, what should I have in the closet, in preparedness for an emergency where you can't leave your house and we can't get to you for a couple of days. So that's something that I wanted to share with you. And lastly, my challenge to you, I think that, as I said at the very beginning, the majority of the people in this room have expired smoke detectors, CO detectors, and fire extinguishers in your house. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do your family a favor. When you go home today, take a look at them. If they're older than 10 years old and they're a smoke detector or an extinguisher, throw them out and buy a new one. Don't put a new battery in a 30-year-old detector. Buy a new detector. And when you go to Ace, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, wherever you go, look for the 10-year lifespan battery. It makes it so simple for you. But take a look at your stuff. If you need any help, just call the fire department. Any of us there can recommend where to buy them, where to locate them in the house. You may have had them put somewhere again 30 years ago, and maybe it's time to upgrade where they're located or what brand we don't recommend a particular make or model, but we can give you some good advice on the style to have and where to mount them. And if you are not able to mount these things, we will come out at no charge and mount them for you. So that's my challenge to you. On behalf of everybody at the fire department and EMS, I just want to say thank you for inviting me here today. We are more than welcome to answer any questions that you guys have, whether it's about your health or whether it's about your safety at home. Just call the fire department anytime. It's not a bother to give us a call, so please do so. And any questions from you guys specifically for me, then I'll turn it over to Perry. Anybody have anything specific in mind for me? Yes, sir.
Smoke detectors that are hardwired as opposed to just the battery. Sorry. Smoke detectors that are hardwired rather than just, plain battery have a life expectancy as well?
Absolutely. Same 10-year life expectancy. It's the membrane inside that senses the smoke or looks through the smoke if it's photoelectric. And when it becomes inefficient, then they start to be problematic. And the next issue with the wired ones, they will activate all of them in your house. It's a wonderful thing, but at 2 a.m. instead of the chirp in the basement that a annoys you. Now everybody's awake because the whole house is hearing it. And great point, Mayor, since you brought it up. There's one other new technology thing I didn't put on the slide, but it just reminded me of. I have them in my house. I have a very long ranch, and if you have a smoke detector at the other end and the bedroom door is closed, you're not going to hear it. So I bought they're called radio frequency interconnected, battery operated one, still mount to the ceiling, still use batteries, but if it goes off, it sends a radio signal, and 10 seconds later, all the other ones in the house activate. You don't have to wire it. You don't have to go through the walls and get all those wires in there. So if you have an older home that doesn't have the wired alarm system in, you can use one of those new RF technologies. Been around about 7 or 8 years, not very commonly known, and it's a great way to get that coverage throughout the whole house, especially if you have a multi-story house and you've got the detector in the basement beeping, you won't hear it on the second floor. So that's a great technology, but same 10-year lifespan that you mentioned. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Both the fire extinguishers and the electronic detectors are hard waste in terms of the electronic ones. You can't just throw them out in the trash or the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not aware that Hudson has a systematic way of collecting used electronic devices. I don't, and so those could be a lot if people start, doing what you're recommending. And the fire extinguisher, and I have one that I have to get rid of, again, I can't just throw that in the trash, I don't think.
Actually,
So
the answer is
do
yes, you
with
can.
I can?
If you exhaust the extinguisher, go outside. It's just a baking soda type of device. Put it on your gravel driveway or on, off in the weeds or in the woods or whatever. Activate it. It's good practice to know how much pressure there is, and you get to do the pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep kind of a thing to make sure you understand how to use it. But it'll actually make the grass grow greener because it's like baking soda and it's good fertilizer, but it hurts nothing. And as long as that's exhausted, you can put it in the trash, no problem. The old detectors that had the sensor inside of it that was hazardous, those are over 30 years old. The odds are there's less and less of those in town. The newer type don't have that, can go right in the trash. There's no problem with throwing them right out. Any other questions?
I have two questions.
Yes,
First
ma'am.
one's about the Knox box.
Mhm.
So is that actually registered with you? So
It's registered. You come in and get an application through us. You send it in to Knox. They cut the lock to match our key, send it to you. We put it into our system. It's in the CAD system at PD, where if we get called to your house, it's called special attention, will start blinking at us and say you have a Knox box. And that will give us that pre-warning. There's a sticker usually we put on the front door that says, oh, I have a Knox box on my house. And we look up and see it. We don't want to do what my predecessor did. Day 3 for Bob Carter, we had a fire alarm. He went there. He didn't know about the Knox box system. He said, take the door. I said, Chief, but, and he said, take the door. I took the door. I did what my chief said. He bought them a new door on his own once he realized there was a Knox box sitting right there on the door. So we don't want to do that and break your door when we have a Knox box. But when it comes to getting one, you can go through us. I can electronically send you the application. That way they know what code to use.
And then about the cold packs, you always check if there's a cold pack?
We
in a
do. If
refrigerator
we have an
under the hood?
unconscious person that we can't get reliable information from family member or whatever, that's the place that we go. We'll typically send the police officer there. We're working on the patient. We'll ask our local police officer that normally responds with us to go take a look for that, and they'll check that out and open it up, and wow, we've got all the information we need. So it's our default only location we look. We don't go rooting through your underwear drawer trying to find where your information is or anything. So we'll always only go to the refrigerator.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I know I'm cutting into Chief Tabek's time, so with no other issues for me, I'll move on to situational awareness with Chief Tabek.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here this morning.
Chief, you're going to need to use that microphone, or we can give you a handheld.
Can you hear me if I talk loud?
Well, we record this with Hudson Cable TV, so
I'll use this because I like to walk around.
that's fine.
Can you hear me on this now? Okay, great. Thanks for having me this morning. Jerry's going to be a tough act to follow. He had props and handouts and a lot of good information.
By the way, be careful.
I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick up where he left off, but we're going to talk about crime prevention, safety in regards to crime prevention. Situational awareness and situational crime prevention are two things. They're related. If you can see this picture, this is a great example of situational awareness. Not being aware of your surroundings. So for situational awareness, we want you to be aware of your surroundings, pay attention to behaviors and actions of people around you, avoid isolation. There's safety in numbers. If something seems bad, it probably is. Take action to avoid and report observations to police, which I'm going to talk about at the very end. In regards to situational crime prevention, most common criminals are opportunistic and self-preserving, meaning it's crimes of opportunity. You know, if we can reduce the opportunity, we can reduce the chance of you being a victim of crime. And they're self-preserving. Self-preservation is one of their number one things, which means what? Low-risk targets. They don't want to get caught, right? They do not want to get caught. Goal is to reduce opportunity and increase risk for the criminals. Affecting conditions of the physical and social environment that provide opportunities for or precipitate criminal acts. That's our goals. And we can lock doors. What else can we do? Lights, lighting.
Water shrubs trim bare. Get a dog.
Landscaping. Man, you guys could have taught this yourselves, right? These are all good ideas, but do we all follow them? Do we all do this stuff? I can tell you, like my in-laws in Cuyahoga Falls and other people that I know, that's where I worked for almost 25 years, and Cuyahoga Falls is a good town. They'd leave their doors unlocked. You know, they'd leave, they'd go to the store, and I'd tell them, what are you doing? Lock your doors. Well, it's Cuyahoga Falls. No one's going to steal anything. Because what happens is most of the citizens, most of you don't see the reports and you don't see the stuff that the police department deals with. And we know what happens. You leave your garage door open and you run to the store and your common criminal drives by or walks by and sees your brand new mower in your garage, helps themselves to it. If the garage was shut, the garage was locked, you wouldn't have that situation. So you can help yourselves. Alarm systems, camera systems, again, not for everybody, but the prices are definitely coming down on surveillance systems, alarms with cameras, a lot of good uses for them, but it's also a deterrence. Again, self-preservation. If they see a camera or they see an alarm system, indicators, they may not want to burglarize your house. So we want to increase their effort involved in crime by making the targets harder or to get at or hindering the commission of the crime. Again, locking doors, securing garages, increase the risks, real or perceived detection of apprehension, surveillance, screening, and again, there's a lot of things out there. What you don't want, and Jerry, what's it called, a knock box? Knox box? You don't want the fake rock on your porch, right? Everybody knows about the fake rocks. Everybody knows that you keep your key underneath the flower pot, okay? So give the keys, if you want to give a key to something in case you get locked out, give it to a trusted neighbor, a family member that you can get a hold of to get in your house, because the criminals will look for those easy access keys. And reduce the rewards of the crime. Mark your high-end items in your house, right? Put name, address. You can engrave items. Again, it's increasing the, reducing the rewards of the crime, increasing the risk. This is what I really want to talk about. Don't be afraid to call the police. Has anybody here ever had that thought that something's just not right? You see something and you just say to yourself, you don't know what it is, it's your spidey sense, right? That's your natural instinct, right? Whether it's a threat or something that makes you uncomfortable, or you see something, you go, that's just odd. If you have those thoughts, the chances are that there probably is something odd, that there is something going on. Don't be afraid to call us. We would rather respond to something and have it turn out to be nothing than have you not call. That goes hand in hand with, if you see something, call us when you see it. The worst thing that we hear all the time is, hey, I'm calling you to report there was a suspicious person, around my neighbor's house. Okay, is he still there? No, this happened at 6 a.m. and it's now noon. Right? We're very limited what we can do with a 6-hour, time lapse. So call. I ran a narcotics unit for about 7 years, and we did a lot of cases all over the Summit County. And a lot of times we would go do a search warrant on a house. And while we were at the house, because I was a supervisor, if neighbors had questions or concerns, they'd come over and talk to me. I can't tell you how many times I had people say, "Thank God you're here. We've known for the last 2 years that they're selling drugs out of this house, or they're selling stolen merchandise out of this house." And then they would proceed to tell me, I say, "Why do you think that?" And they'd proceed to go through a list of things which are all indicators of either drug use or criminal activity. And I'd go, "Why didn't you call?" Because I didn't want to bother you. You're not bothering us. That's our job. Whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or it's 3 p.m., you are not bothering the police. I look at law enforcement as a partnership. Right? It takes an entire community along with the police department, fire department, safety forces to keep us safe. So you're not bothering us. The other thing with situational awareness, and maybe not in this group, but a lot of times with youth, the younger generation, when you talk about being aware of your surroundings, you can pass this information along, to kids, grandkids, and stuff like that. What do we see them doing all the time? We see them walk across streets and get hit by cars because they're on their phone. That's another example of situational awareness and safety. That's all I have for you. I appreciate you having me here this morning. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Chief, how important is an alarm system? I have one in my house, and I don't think I've turned it on in 5 years.
Well, it's definitely not important if you don't turn it on. Again,
where does Joe live?
Alarm systems aren't for everybody. Camera systems aren't for everybody. It's just one more thing you can do. Again, it's a deterrence.
Where do you live again, Joe? Chief, how many officers do you have that are out at any one particular time, like out in the community?
It may vary shift to shift, day to day, but generally there's 3 uniformed police officers patrolling minimum.
Three on duty at any particular point in time?
Yeah, minimum. Again, it could vary day to day based on vacation, staffing, special assignments, stuff like that.
And the total number of, and that doesn't include like the school resource officers?
No, it doesn't include school resource officers. It doesn't include like myself or the administrative lieutenants who, if something happens while we're working, even though our primary responsibility isn't to respond to calls for service, we're all going. Just like Chief here, we're all going.
Got it. And how many, what is the total staff of the?
There's about 28 uniform patrol officers.
So you said 28, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, could you speak a little bit about social media and the propensity sometimes to put information out in public that you really don't want there?
Yeah, that's
I
great.
remember a council meeting, and these are taped. Lady got up and said, she was complaining about something. She said, "And I'm going to be in France for the next month."
Yeah, no, that's great. As far as safety and crime, social media, again, you want to limit the information you're putting out, right? You don't want to put on social media, "Yeah, I'm headed to Europe for a month. I live at XYZ, 3rd Street, the keys underneath the rock." But we do that, though. We may not know that we're doing it. We think we're just sharing our vacation with people and stuff like that, but criminals will scan stuff like that. And it may not be the unknown criminal. It could be an associate or somebody that knows a friend of a friend, and they find out that you're gone. Lighting, you can put lights on timers. Again, you can have somebody, if you are gone, you can have somebody stop by, a trusted friend or relative stop by, so there's some activity at the house. Social media is a great thing. It's a great tool. It's a great way to stay in touch. But sometimes we share too much information out there.
Chief Tabak, is our world becoming a safer place in your opinion? And along those lines, can you talk about maybe from your perspective the history of crimes and kind of where we are today versus when you first started as a police officer?
I mean, that's a pretty big question. I don't know if we have the time to get into all that.
No, just in general.
I see they're getting the cane ready to pull me off stage. Crime like drug trends and crime in general, it fluctuates, right? So we see waves of stuff come and go, depending on society, meaning, you know, the big heroin epidemic, right? We didn't see heroin for years and years, none. And then all of a sudden it came back. And again, there's a lot of underlying factors why that happened. But just like fashion trends, same thing happens with crime and drugs. What we're seeing more of today, though, in the lines of crime is technology crimes, right? Identity theft, electronic thefts, things like that. So because of the use of electronics and technology in society, the criminals are evolving too. And they're figuring out ways to steal and commit their crimes by the use of technology or using your use of technology to make you a victim. One thing that we see a lot, and I know there's not a ton of gas stations in Hudson, but there's several, is we see the card reader scams, okay? Where they'll come in, I've seen some very sophisticated ones that if you didn't actually, you know, touch that unit and pay attention, you would think it was legit. You know, one way to avoid that, and it's not as convenient, is to go into the gas station and pay with your card in the gas station, because the card reader scams are definitely on the pumps usually, or at least pay attention if it's a gas station you frequent, if something looks different or odd, and if it does, chances are there's something odd, so go in and pay. So technology has definitely changed crime.
I have a question. So being on the school board with Tom, we're often asked about, you know, are we putting a lot of resources worrying about intruders coming on campus, you know, to shoot, and we do, and it's a serious thing, but I think your predecessor had a very good quote, which was, that's a high impact, low probability event, and we can't put all our resources on that. And I imagine that people's perceptions of what type of crime that they have to worry about don't necessarily match up with what actually they should be worried about. And I'll give you an example in the schools. I think we're far more worried right now about people driving around stopped school buses, which is happening because that can injure a child very easily if they're crossing the street. And so I don't know if there's other things in town that people don't think about that are actually the more likely things that can harm them or
And those are some great examples, and I think we have to pay attention to all of them, because even though the probabilities aren't high with like an active shooter event, myself and Chief Barnes have actually just sat down. My first 2 weeks, we sat down. We both share similar opinions on being prepared for stuff like that, and we're already initiating some training that we have historically not done here in Hudson between the fire and police departments to provide better response services should that happen. Coincidentally, I recently just met with a school board member about the stop arm stuff, and potentially looking at some technology to help us, you know, with that as well. So they're all concerns, and I think you can't ignore one over the other.
Thank you, Chief. This is a question either to you or Chief Barnes. Something I've always been concerned about, and maybe you might have some thoughts on what the situation is in the high schools, and it deals with teen suicide rates in the high school or in the middle schools. Do you have any indication of that going up, down, sideways, or where does that stand?
I don't have any statistics or anything on that. Maybe Chief Barnes can answer that question.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have specific numbers, but I will say we are very fortunate in this town. We have a very progressive mental health group in the high school and in all of our schools that are actively looking for and trying to help that. So our numbers are significantly lower than other towns of our size and other towns in our area, but it is certainly a concern. Cyberbullying for teenagers is a big deal. That is on the rise for sure. And we're my partnership and the partnership between EMS and the mental health providers at the schools, we find that they're asking about that a lot, because we do keep the stats of when we do have a suicide, but it's the near misses. They're the ones that are, whether they're going to their therapist, whether they're going to their priest or whoever, the kids that do catch it and talk to somebody about it, those are the numbers that we don't have a good feel for, because they don't get either reported to us or get included in a database. So I absolutely agree that's a major concern, but it's something that we do, I would call it better than most towns, and something we're very fortunate that that's a pretty low number. We don't have many teen suicides in Hudson.
I can think back of some statistics I read not too long ago of what it is nationally, and I think some of our members here would be surprised that the incidence of attempted suicide once or more than once is in the range of 25% of the school population. That's
Nationally,
a horrible
I
number.
believe that is absolutely correct.
25%, it's a horrible number.
Yeah, 25% have either attempted or considered attempting suicide. And that's a pretty big number for when you have as many teenagers in school as we have.
With the three of you here, I'm just thinking of reading the hub about our volunteers and the EMS and not able to keep them. They go off to paid positions. Just for a community of our size, are we adequately staffed in the fire and the EMS and the police for a community like ours?
I'll speak about fire and EMS. That's the part that I know. We are absolutely adequately staffed on the fire side. We're fortunate. We have additional people wanting to volunteer on the fire side. But let's be clear, there's a difference between volunteering for EMS and volunteering for fire. As a, quote, volunteer firefighter, you are paid when you come to a call. You get a stipend to pay for your jeans that you ruin and all the other things that happen there. And you come to a call when you're available, when you want to. It's a wonderful thing that people leave their anniversary dinner or their child's birthday to come to a fire, but they're not required to. We have a lot of dedicated people, and they do. So we have 42 people on the fire service in Hudson, and we're very well staffed. On the EMS side, the staff is changing. It's not that we don't have adequate staff, the makeup is changing. It used to be we had 80 volunteers at Hudson EMS. It was a different time frame. I was a volunteer. Sue Carter there in the back, she was a volunteer, our longest EMS member that has been with the service. And it was a different mindset. People did it for different reasons. And in today's world, number one, the risks involved. On the EMS side, you are there. You're living on station overnight or for your 12-hour shift during the day, so you have to be there. You are running more calls. We average for the entire department, where all of the members get called, about 100 calls a year. We do about 600 total calls, but only about 100 calls a year for the fire service. On the EMS side, we're on track to do 2,000 calls this year. It's rising. Last year was 1,700, and we're on track to have a 300 call increase just this year. And so that's pretty significant. So you don't, it used to be, we held a record, my crew. I worked every Sunday night for 18 years. I worked every Sunday night. We had a record. We went 26 weeks without a call. Slept well, went to work Monday morning, no problem. Now the people that are getting 2-3 calls in the middle of the night, you can't work all day, come in, work all night at EMS, and work all day the next day if you've not slept well. And so those people that were there in the volunteer aspect that used to come in, odds are, maybe get 1 call. Now you get 2 or 3 in the middle of the night, and it really negatively impacts your life. And so the number of volunteers that are willing to take those risks between HIV and all the other diseases you can get, the mental health challenges of combative patients that we have. Fortunate we have great response from PD, but they can turn at any time. You can be in the back of an ambulance talking to the most sedate, quiet, wonderful 80-year-old grandma, and then she reaches up and smacks one of our EMTs because her mental health has changed, her medication has changed, something's worn off. We've had injured patients, we've had injured personnel, and that's a different time span, a different life now, and let alone the training. My God, it used to be that, we'd go to 1 monthly training, sit around, have some good food, and talk for an hour and a half and go home, and we were trained. Now there are hundreds and hundreds of hours that you have to keep up to date with every medication change. As a paramedic, you've got to know every medication change, what the contraindications are, the allergies to it, when you can use it, when you can't, and those medications change on a regular basis. The equipment changes, so much more mental requirements than it was 30 years ago to be on EMS. And so it's a hard thing to get people to come in and work for EMS for free, to risk your life for free to force you to do hundreds of hours of continuing education every year, and it is a zero pay. They don't get a stipend. It's a zero pay. It's a different entity, and that was by design back in the day. Nowadays, it is not working quite as well, and it's not just a Hudson issue. It is a national trend. We're losing volunteers. We're better than most communities. We have more volunteers in Hudson than most other communities like us, but it is something that's on the downside. And one of my constant battles is trying to keep sufficient paid personnel to cover for as we lose a volunteer. One volunteer loss can really significantly impact the organization. So are we well-staffed? Yes. Do we need more people? We always can use more people. All volunteers is great to spread out the wealth, but it is not something that we are understaffed.